We have an obligation in the utility and the municipality industries to keep the lights on and keep the clean water flowing. The challenges that we as an industry face are broad and really quite wide. I'll give you 5 predictions for the future. Let's jump straight in. The first one that I would talk about is having to do with natural disasters. I expect that we will continue to see an increase in the number of natural disasters. The rate at which they have been happening has quadrupled since the 1970s. In the United States alone, the last 2 years, we've been averaging more than 14 natural disasters that cost in excess of $1 billion in remediation cost. That rate will continue. This rate of natural disaster will continue to increase, and it's going to be incumbent upon all of us to provide reliable and resilient services during those periods of high stress. How do we make sure we keep the lights on, and if there is an outage, get them back on as quickly as possible? Water is life. You can't go without it for an extended period of time, so making sure those services are reliable is an important part of what we do. The next point that I would make has to do with the way EVs are proliferating inside of the transportation system itself. An exponential increase is something that we should expect to see over the coming years, and in fact, it's already started to happen. The number of EVs that have been sold between 2017 and 2018 is up 60%. From 18 to 19, it's up 70%. And this rate will continue until more than half of the fleet of passenger vehicles by the year 2040 will be electricity-oriented. And this will create different loads and different stresses on the electricity grid. But how do we develop a charging infrastructure on a global level to support this? How do we use predictive analytics to make sure that when 5 working couples come home and plug in their cars at the end of a workday in that same cul-de-sac that the transformer isn't overloaded? Those types of analytics we can provide services for them today. Third prediction I would give you is how the mix of energy that we use is going to be continuing to change. The amount of renewable energy that is going to be in place from a capacity perspective will more than double over the next 10 years. This is something that creates increasing complexity. And in fact, the #1 priority for most utilities in terms of their grid modernization spend is making sure they do a better and better job with integrating renewables into their systems. But you also have to be able to provide reliable and resilient service during this time period. It's great until the 2 days when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. The lights still have to operate. So making sure that we've got an agile system and a dynamic way of managing this diversity in the energy mix is an important part of what we need to do, given the drastic increase in renewables that we will see inside of the system. Next one that I would talk about is how this social aspect will play into our communities and into our cities themselves. The role that utilities can play inside of a smart city is increasing at a dramatic rate. What can we do as a community to make sure that we are ready and able to provide those services and enrich the communities in which we all live and play? The economic opportunity as well as the societal benefit is huge. More than $100 billion by the year 2027 is the expectation of the revenue that utilities can generate from smart city and smart community kinds of solutions. Here, innovation is going to be key. This is a place that we can all play, and there is plenty of opportunity to innovate as a community. The last point that I would make in terms of predictions is what will happen and how our industry will change. The notion of distributed computing. How do we put computing on the edge of the network to enable a much more agile system, whether that compute power is used for operational improvement or consumer engagement? You can find out who's stealing from you. You can find out broken neutral inside of a system. You can find out where energy is being used inside of a home. You can implement demand response or energy efficiency programs. Endless number of applications that you can provide once you have that compute power in a downloadable sense out at the edge of the network. I think this notion of distributed intelligence and edge compute will be the same thing for our industry. It's that smartphone revolution coming home to us to provide much better opportunities for us to serve our consumers and be able to get better asset life and utilization out of the investments that we all make. This is a piece of technology that is on the forefront of where we are today in terms of deployment, but it will fundamentally change our industry going forward. Those are my 5 big predictions.